Peace, everybody. Welcome to season 5, episode number 2 of the P.W.P Sessions podcast. I'm your host, Noelle Figueroa. Today's guest is Demegod, and we just going to get right to it. Peace, Demegod. What's good, man? How you doing?
Peace and love. You already know that's the Rough Riders symbol. So I always throw that up. You know what I mean?
All right, that's what's up. That's what's up. Now, how would you describe yourself or define yourself?
I would define myself as an individual who has growth and development. You know what I mean? I've come from the streets, and that has articulated my wordplay, and that has brought me into poetry, then poetry and science. So I would say growth and development.
That's what's up. That's what's up. What was it about poetry and hip hop that motivated you to want to dive into it for yourself?
Well, I started writing poetry first before I even got into rapping. Back in the days, when I was young, about 9, 10 years old, I used to write poetry for a Harlem newspaper and they had the poetry corner. So I started out, I wrote one poem for them, and then they consistently wanted me to keep giving poems. So I did that for about a year, and that right there opened me up. A lot of my poems were about slavery and the things that we were being taught at that age at the time in elementary school. So that's what the basis of my poetry came. And then my cousin was rapping. So he came to me and was like, yo, you might as well start rapping. It's the same thing. And then that's when I started to practice and develop and cross over into the rap genre.
Yeah, that's what's up. That's what's up. Now, for those watching that may not know, you know, being an MC or a rapper, that's like the next level of a poet. You know what I mean? For those that don't know, poetry is the writing aspect, but when you take it to the next level, that's when you see the MCs or rappers doing their thing, off the top of the dome, that's like the next level of that. But it's all connected. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Rap, rap is like just basically, poetry set to music. Just to give background to those that are not familiar with this genre. You know what I mean? It's like it's just all connected. And it's like when it's like pretty much well, poetry is like one of the oldest art forms that's ever existed. And when hip hop came about, that just took it to another level.
Well, actually, I'm just doing research on rap itself. I actually posted not too long ago. I posted an Indian woman from the Hindu culture, and she said in her culture, rap is 10,000 years old. So they
Wow.
even have Hindu rap songs where they rapping, where they have the music behind the poetry, and she even displayed one of the songs, and she said rap is not new. And that's the whole surmise of my book, If God Could Rap, because rhythm rap means rhythm and poetry. I had went in Times Square, and I was just asking people, what is the acronym for rap? And I had some T-shirts, I had some sweatshirts, I had some cash. So I was like, if anybody could tell me what's the acronym for rap, I'm gonna bless you with a gift right in Times Square. And nobody got it right. So nobody really knew that rap meant rhythm and poetry.
Right. Right. Now, when you first started out, like what were the first subjects for your rhymes or for your poetry?
Mm. Of course, it was, I was going with what everybody else was really rapping about because I'm thinking, this is what I need to be doing is rap. So it was about street shit. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Everything was street. You know what I mean? Everything was street. Hip hop was birthed from the street. It
Facts.
was the people in the street
Mhm.
using hip hop to express themselves. And that was the main thing, but I'm young, so my
Right.
expression was immature. My expression was reckless. My expression was what I thought, I needed to say and be just to be a part of the crowd and a part of the fad. And
Mhm.
then I developed my own conceptual thoughts, and as I evolved and matured, the topics got a lot more deeper, a lot more structural. You know what I mean? And
That
then getting into the music industry is a whole nother beast.
right. So in your and during so during your process of evolution, like what were the subjects that came about during your evolution?
Um, I would say more so love. I started to rapping about relationships. I started rapping about sex. Wasn't really rapping about sex like that. You know what I'm
Right,
saying? It was a lot of battle rap.
right,
You know what I'm saying? It was a lot of rap telling stories about the street. But after, through maturity and growing, I started to bring more deeper concepts, more political concepts, more concepts that had more meaning, putting words together that bring about more substance. And I think that's what started to really my imagination help that substance get grow as I grew. You know what I mean?
right, right. And who would you who or what would you give credit to in helping you evolve as a poet and as an MC? Like, who would you say helped you to grow in that?
Oh wow. I would say definitely in my early years, I would definitely have to say like Langston Hughes. In my early years, I was in school. So of course if I mention poetry, they're gonna push the most prophetic and prolific poet of that time in your face. And Langston Hughes was one of those ones. And I would say Muhammad Ali in my early years. Like a lot of people don't credit Muhammad Ali with being a poet, but Muhammad Ali displayed a lot of rap and MCing of the boxing genre. You know what I mean? He brought poetry into his speeches and his interviews, and that affected me. His poetry definitely affected me in my early years. And then as I grew, I would definitely say Nas. You know what I'm saying? Nas, the golden child from Queens. That
Mhm.
kid, lyrical, when he first came on the scene, his lyrical wordplay was like, it was unlike any other. You know what I mean? Of course, we had Rakim, but
Yeah,
before Rakim, I mean, after Rakim, it wasn't really nobody really coming with that wordplay, and Nas came with that wordplay, and that really affected me. And Tupac really affected me. Tupac really affected me because Tupac wasn't so much. He was a wordsmith, but it wasn't like a Nas wordsmith.
right,
His
right.
words were more like from the spirit, from the heart. He
Mhm.
wasn't really worried about how the words were intertwining and rhyming and all that. He was definitely prophetic and poetic, but it was more so he knew how to articulate what was on his spirit and mind to speak. You know what I'm saying? When it came to certain topics. And we talking about the poetic Pac. We're not talking about the, you know what I'm saying, all
Mhm.
the negative stuff
Right,
that they throw on him.
right,
Big, Big was another one. Like we talking about the poets of my time.
right,
Yes, we got the poets from 50 years ago and all
right,
that, but these are the people who brought wordplay into my life. You feel me?
right.
Notorious B.I.G. was one of the best wordsmith there was. You know what I mean? And when he came, it was over. It was like, wow, this guy could basically say Fruit Loop, and if he say it a certain way, he make it sound hot. You know what I mean? So, and now, like I told you before, I'm into Sufism and Rumi and more of the deeper part of poetry and the spiritual part of poetry. There's a spiritual part of poetry that people fail to or don't have the I would say the what's the word? They don't have the privilege of knowing that there's a spiritual part of poetry and an ancient part of poetry that comes from the East. But the East is also the West. Whatever they was doing in the East, never believe that the United States was primitive and we was dancing around fires and we didn't have mathematics and science and know a bunch of stuff here in ancient America because we was connected to Africa. So whatever they was popping over there, we had over here as well.
Mhm.
So that science, that mysticism that comes with poetry, I'm learning now with Sufism.
Right, right. Let's talk about the book. If God Could Rap, is that the title?
Definitely,
God
yep.
Could Rap.
If God
What was
could
the
rap.
yeah, that's a dope cover. I'm feeling that cover.
Thanks,
I like
bro.
the color. That blue is hot. But what was
Thanks.
the motivation or and inspiration to put that book together?
Um, I always wanted to put a poetry book together, but I never really dived into actually being an author. And my cousin Kawan, who is a prolific author coming out of New York, Harlem, New York. He got a lot of books out now. A lot of people might know him as KWAN. Kawan, he write urban novels. He inspired me to really like be an author and take poetry to the book form. And I said, yeah, I got a bunch of songs with prolific lyrics. How do I bring that to the people? You
Right,
know what I mean? And how do I do that in a way that's prolific? How do I do that in a way that sends a message, you know what I mean, of spirituality and oneness with the creator? So if God could rap was the best title that I could ever come up with. And the rap in the book is rhythm and poetry. At the bottom, you'll see the acronym of rhythm and poetry. And yeah, man, I mean, just to read a little bit of what the book entails, it says rap. The first thing you will learn from this book is that the word rap in the music genre means rhythm and poetry. Today, in its full capacity, it's a lost art form. In a world of legendary urban street poets and great rappers like Nas, DMX, Notorious B.I.G., Jay-Z, and Tupac, lyrics in rap hip hop songs and mainstream media today have been dumbed down to pure ignorance, purposely done to program the minds of the youth. The power of words is as true as water is wet. Words cast spells for those who bear witness to the magic in speech. Unlike rap and hip hop in the past, we had a balance with rap groups like Public Enemy, A Tribe Called Quest, and X Clan, to the street ballads of the 90s with Mobb Deep, CNN, Snoop Dogg, and Wu Tang Clan. Most of today's rap lyrics lack substance, influential positive energy, and substance for the listener. This does the listener a great injustice and robs them of the power of words. When in the beginning, there was only the word, and the word was with God. So that right there just lets you know, like, it's definitely a powerful piece. The book is written like Nostradamus in acronyms. You know what I mean? I mean, in quadrines.
right.
You know what I mean? So instead of me having full poems, I just hit you with a quadrant
Uh-huh.
and make sure you get the full impact of what's being said.
That's what's up. That's what's up. But what was the process like for you in putting the book together?
Oh man, it was definitely a learning experience because again, I never actually self-published. I never put a book out, so just the whole process of getting the color scheme of the book done, and actually my mother um published a book, and her book is blue, this color
Oh,
blue,
that's what's up.
and this and with this silver. So that inspired me to go with the blue. I had just lost her in 2022,
Oh,
and me having to deal with that, I put all that energy and transmuted that into this book. So that's the whole process. 2022 was spent putting this book together, making sure everything was right with it, meeting the editor. You know what I mean? Having to meet with an editor and go through the editing process, taking stuff out, putting things in, meeting with the art director, the person who helped put the whole scheme of the book. Like it was a
right.
beautiful experience, just as a poet, and then transferring over into authorship. I advise it for all poets, man. It was a great experience, brother.
Right, that's what's up. And respectful condolences, to your mom.
Appreciate that.
That's a blessing, that you found her to be an inspiration for that cover. That's
Indeed.
what's up. That's a
Indeed.
good way to remember her. That's what's up. You know what I mean?
Word up.
That's a beautiful thing.
I appreciate that, man. Word up.
So when you dropped the book, right? Like what was the like the first people that got to it, like what were their responses to it?
Well, of course, it was friends and family, and friends and family weren't surprised. You know what I mean? They just was happy that they could actually hold something that I basically created, and they was proud, of course. But once it, I mean, I don't really take friends and family compliments. They love the book, but that's friends and family. You feel
Right,
me? So it wasn't until it got out into the public and people started just complimenting me on the prophetic, on a prolific part of it. You know what I mean? It's a lot of prolific poems in there that's doing neat, just breaking down all the things that we feel, that I felt was negative in society, that affects us negatively. And that's what the artist does. You know what I'm saying? Whether you're a painter, sculptor, poet, um, rapper, actor, model, all that's art. People don't understand all that's art. And throughout time, we've always had these things and we've always had these people. These people are the people who really move society. Politicians don't move society. You feel me? People think politicians move society. No. Politicians give you the impression that they move society, but when we elect these politicians, nothing changes.
right,
Who changes society is the artist.
mhm,
It's the poet. It's the rapper. It's the musician. They used to have the Moors used to have the troubadours
mhm,
back in the Renaissance, back in Spain. The troubadours were the North African poets, the people who came with the music and the poetry, you know what I'm saying, brought that into Europe.
right,
So we've always had these people who move society, and their art is what touches the people and move the people. So
right,
politicians don't move nobody. It's
right,
the artists that move the body, the painters,
mhm,
sculptors. We the ones that move society. So it's
mhm.
important that we have positive people in those positions so society can continue to evolve and reach higher heights.
Right. Facts is I don't know if you recall that quote from Nina Simone where she said it's the artist's duty to reflect the times. And what you just said emphasizes that quote. It's the artists is that are the artists speak to the people. What I'm saying? We are the voice of the people that can be agents of change. So we have a responsibility to be positive agents of change in that regard. You know what I mean?
Indeed so. Indeed so. Although when people read this book, there is a disclaimer in the back of the book that if it's a street
Mhm.
too. You feel me? So if you have you know what I mean, if you're faint or you can't really take harsh words, I advise you to just proceed with caution
Right,
because I don't believe that. I believe that yes, um, artists are to move society in a positive way, but I don't believe that their art is always positive because it's an expression. So
right,
every song and every poem that I have is not positive. You feel me?
right,
I wasn't feeling positive that day.
right,
I needed to express myself in a way that wasn't positive. I need to get something off my chest. And maybe there's somebody across the world in China or Japan or Africa that could read the poem and translate it into English and understand my plight.
right.
You feel me? And
Yeah.
we can connect that way. You feel what I'm saying? But
Right, right.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
facts. It's not positive in the fact that it's always positive, right? It's positive in the sense that the positivity comes from the transparency. And when you're transparent, when you're keeping it real, that's when you connect with people because real people can separate the fake from the real.
That's a fact.
When you're real, you resonate. And when you're able to resonate with your audience, that's what makes the difference.
That's what makes a difference. Islam to that more. Islam to that. So Sufism is like the next level of poetry for me. So this book was given to me by a good friend of mine from Mushman Entertainment, and coming out of Westchester County. They work with D Block, Styles P, Sheik Luch, Jada Kiss, and Just my boy Just gave me this book. This book is called A Unity of Being. I advise all poets and all rappers in that artist field of genre to get this book and dive into the spiritual aspect of poetry, because one of the famous Sufi poets is Rumi. We all know Rumi, Rumi. Rumi is one of the most famous poets in the world. You know what I mean? And there's a reason why. When you read his poetry, you feel you it's something mystical about his words, and he always talk about love. You know what I'm saying? So these poets, these poems that he transcribed and has given to the world is are poems to help the world love more, love more, focus on love. Love is the highest, most powerful force in the universe. You understand what I'm saying? That's why
Right.
the woman is the most powerfulest being in the universe, because she resonates love. You know what I'm saying? Yahshua, the
Mhm.
true Jesus, he
Mhm.
pushed love. You know what I mean? Love is a powerful force.
Facts.
Love can even fight evil just by being. Love doesn't
Exactly.
have to pick up a sword. Just by love being in the room, evil cannot survive because of the light. So love was a Rumi's thing, and the light of the soul, teaching people that the light isn't outside of oneself. You know what I'm saying? You can't step into a church until your church is right. There's a church that you walk around with every day, you know, that you put pork into, that you put cigarettes into, that you put alcohol into.
Mhm.
That's a church. Your body is the temple of the light.
Mhm.
Allah, God's force and energy lives within you.
Mhm.
So Rumi was powerful, and Sufism is powerful on that level. And I'm a student of Sufism. See, I have the feds on. I'm a more,
Mhm.
and yeah, Sufism is powerful, brother.
Mhm.
Powerful. They talk about how poetry has always been prophecy. When you read the Bible is written in poetry. When
Yeah,
you
the book
read
of
the
Psalms.
Quran,
The book of
when you
Psalms is
read the
poetry. Yeah.
Quran,
Hmm.
it's written in poetry. How the
Hmm.
words go smooth, and it's those people were poets. They
Right.
just were spiritual poets.
Mhm.
Poetry has always been prophecy, and prophecy has always been poetry, right? So let's just dive in real quick on one little piece in this book right here that I want people to tap into, because uh we just was talking about the Bible. So the first Sufi poets composed Arabic, even though some of them, including the famous, infamous Sufi martyr Mansa al-Hallaj, who was an influence of Ibn Arabi. Ibn Arabi is the author of this book called Unity of Being. Ibn Arabi is another famous Persian Sufi poet who came out some years after Rumi. Um, it says that to follow this golden thread of spiritual poetry, one must follow the true spiritual hierarchy of real saints and God realized souls. Perfect masters, their lives and stories are to be found in the many books listed below and in many others. What is the essential belief of philosophy in the Sufi masters and poets? To put it simply as possibly, the love of God, the belief in God in human form, and the love and respect for all of God's creations, and to try not to hurt anyone or anything. And of course, a belief in truth, love, and beauty as the greatest and the divine attributes, a belief similar, if not the same, as the Christian mystics or the Vedantist mystics and believers in the inner way of most religions, right? Poets are prophets, and this saying has a great significance and a hidden meaning. There is no doubt that through poetry is not necessarily prophecy, but prophecy is born in poetry. If one were to say that poetry is a body which is adopted by the spirit of prophecy, it would not be wrong. Wagner has says that the noise is not necessarily music, and the same thing could be said in connection with poetry, that a verse written in rhyme and mirror is not necessarily true poetry. Poetry is an art and a music expressed in the beauty and harmony of words. No doubt, much of the poetry one reads is meant either as a pastime or for amusement. But real poetry comes from the dancing of the soul, and no one can make the soul dance unless the soul itself is inclined to dance. Also, no soul can dance which is not alive. In the Bible, it is said that no one will enter the kingdom of God whose soul is not born again. And being born means being alive. It is not only a happy disposition or an external inclination to merriment and pleasure that is the sign of a living soul. For external joy and amusement may come simply through the external beings of man. Although, even in the outer joy of happiness, there is a glimpse of the inner joy of happiness through poetry.
Mm.
So, this book right here is powerful, brothers. Like, this goes into the Persian and Arabic and West Africa, because Sufism is a it's a part of Islam that's you would say taboo. So they don't, the secular Islam, we don't practice Islam the religion. We practice Islam the culture. We practice Islam the culture of love. You know what I'm saying? The culture of the soul, the culture of one being connected with the higher power,
Right.
like the book said. Word.
Right. So like it's like based off of what you just shared, right? Like all that knowledge you've been acquiring, from that and just in general, like your experiences as a poet and an MC up until this point, right? Right, hip hop the way it is now, we all know what all the negative stuff that's pertaining to hip hop right now, right? What I want to ask you is, where do you think hip hop has the potential? What do you think hip hop has the potential to be? Like, what do you think can be done to like resurrect it to its full potential of what it could be or should be?
Um, it could be hip hop. I think we're gonna see influx of conscious hip hop coming more and more every year from now to 2030. And the reason why is because things are going to get hard for people year after year, all the way to 2030. There's a lot of changes and a lot of things happening in society that people are pushing back on, and a lot of things that infringe on our personal privacy, our money. It's a lot of things that's going to affect the middle class. The middle class is going to be hurt, financially. So whenever people go through a struggle, that births prophecy. That's going to birth poets and more cries and expression of truth and justice. And I think we're going to see an influx in that. And I think that it's going to be on an independent level. It won't be through the mainstream, because the people who control the mainstream don't care about the art form. They don't
Right.
really care about the art. It's all a bit about business and money, and you know what I'm saying. So another thing, we could see an influx in the mainstream if the people who look like me and you, who have the power, and the gatekeepers who have the positions and they finally say, yo, you know what? It's time for a change. But until then, mainstream will always be the dungeon, you know what I'm saying? And part of the dungeon masters, you know what I mean? But the internet, it has leveled the playing field where independent artists could push their art to the next level. And I think we're about to see a whole influx of that for the next coming years.
Right, right. That's what's up. Who do you consider to be your inspirations?
Um, Definitely now, I would definitely say the poets of Sufism are definitely have become an inspiration, especially Rumi have definitely become an inspiration. And there's some there's some poets that like I know personally, like the last poets, Obi Odun, and I give respect to the last poets because the last poets they came in the Harlem Renaissance. They were young, you know what I'm saying? They were political. They were saying, was talking that smack. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? It was the jazz clubs and you know what I mean Harlem at that time. You know what I
Right,
mean? And the Europeans flooded the community with heroin. You know what I mean? Let's not act like you know what I'm saying. Black people is yeah. The Europeans put heroin in Harlem to stop the people from evolving, man. You know what I mean? But all it did was create, you know what I'm saying, jazz and the last poets, man. The last poets was very prophetic, man. If y'all don't know who the last poets are, I advise the listeners and watchers to Google the last poets and pay respects to the OGs who paid the way for us in this poetry circuit.
facts, facts. Even Gil Scott Heron, shout him out
Fact.
too, because he was dropping some gems too during his time,
That's
so
a fact. That's a
most
fact.
definitely. Definitely, most
Mhm.
definitely. All right. You got a couple of pieces you want to drop on our audience today, bro?
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I dropped something real quick.
All right, all right.
I dropped something from out the book, and this is one of my um prophetic um songs that I have out right now called it's called the song actually the poem is called something different in the book, but and the song is called God on My Side. Why is the world against me? This life for white supremacy. The black man's the enemy, but really we all energy. Why you got these people thinking my skin is evil? Who's inferior if God created us all equal? Why is police and secret societies all against me? What's the big secret you think you hold against me? The Ma'afa of Harima Biff, but I have risen. This is for the ghetto black children. So that's a quadrine right there. And I hope that's powerful enough to make you go get the book and tap in. I appreciate you.
Yeah, that's what's up. That's what's up. If you could collaborate with any poet or any MC, living or deceased, who would it be and why?
Oh, it would be definitely Pac, man. It'd be definitely Pac. Pac, you could tell Pac knew some things, man.
Oh,
you could tell,
definitely, definitely.
you could tell he knew some things, and I think more so doing the song collaboration wouldn't be as deep as the studio conversation. You know what I mean? It's me and him just going there, just conversating and all that. But I've worked with other prophetic people like Kanye West don't get a lot of credit because the way the mainstream media try to make him look crazy and all that. But he's one of our poets that is neo-political, you know what I mean? He always has stuck up for the people. He's always spoke up for the people. And I think that our people should be ashamed of themselves the way they treat some of the people that speak up for us because we basically show we program. Like they can control if we love them today or if we hate them tomorrow. And we forget about what they did yesterday, and it's just everything that they saying they did today. And but who spoke against George Bush when Hurricane Katrina hit? No other stars or anything was speaking up. No, everybody was quiet, acting like the injustices was nothing, and he spoke up. So and this is a personal friend of mine, and he's actually like that in real life. He's like that. So I don't, people, what I mean? Yeah, he's like that. You know what I mean? So um he's another dude that really, like, me meeting him too definitely influenced me. But on the poetry side, I'm talking about on the poetry side though. I think that I would love to do a whole album with the last poets, man. If I could.
Right,
Just some rap. I'm doing the rap part and they doing the poetry part, and it's political. It's deep, it's connectual, it's spiritual, you know what I mean? It's constructual, you know what I mean?
right.
That's a substance. Classic for life. Classic for life. I
Right.
think that'd be word.
Yeah, that's what's up. That's what's up. Now you heard the word representation, right, thrown around here and there in different circles for whatever reasons. Like when you're talking about yourself, for all the things that make you who you are, how important is it to you to make sure that you're representing yourself in your totality, whether you're doing poetry or whether you're being, performing as an MC, you know what I'm saying, doing your thing that way or writing poetry. How important is it to you to make sure that you're representing yourself in your totality?
It's very important for me. That's the whole reason why I wear the fez. That's the whole reason why I start studying Moorish science, because Moorish science is about ancient American indigenous peoples before colonization. So I'm
Mhm.
Cherokee, Blackfoot, and Cuban.
Mhm.
So, America was here before Christopher Columbus. We was already here. So it's important. And as you see, my name is Hafiz Bey. So I'm a Bey. So I want to be in my proper persona. I don't want to come up here as a Johnson or Williamson or any one of those last names that came from the slave master. I'm not representing that. I'm actually representing the indigenous part of America, my ancestors, and it's important. It's important for me to do that, not just for me and my to stroke my ego, but to set an example and show people, okay, this is what we've always been. You know what I'm saying? This headdress is a 10,000 year old headdress. So this headdress didn't start with the Shriners going to see kids with cancer in the hospital the way America tried to make it seem.
Right,
This headdress come from our ancestors from North Africa and America. Both sides wore this headdress. This is
right,
a 10,000-year-old headdress. So when you see the Olmec heads and you see the heads out on Easter Island and you see the Sumerian depictions, what are they wearing on their heads? If you notice, everybody have some form of a fez on their heads. Those are our ancestors, the Olmecs, Easter Island, the Persians who would say is Babylon, the Ziggurats,
right,
all of them, Egypt, the Egyptians. What are they wearing on their heads? Fezzes. So this is a 10,000-year-old headdress. So it's important to be able to be the lesson
right,
without me even having to speak. I'm gonna be the lesson. I don't even have to speak. When I walk in the room, I am the lesson if the person is paying attention.
right. So, if what would you say, like your mission is, like overall, like what would when all is said and done, what would you hope to accomplish with your work?
Um, I have five major things in my movement that I push.
Mhm.
I push prison reform because I went to prison, and there's a lot of young brothers still going through what I went through, and it's an ongoing cycle, and it's a fight to stop warehousing individuals instead of giving them the help they need, whether it's mental health help, financial help, or self development help. Whatever help it is, they refuse to give it and want to just pack us in warehouses because it's a business. So prison reform and more science, claiming your nationality, being black, being Negro, colored, African American, the titles that they choose to give us today don't give us no power. They have written up in their paperwork, in their corporate structure, that anybody that go by those titles are basically still slaves. So we don't even know that. That's why police could shoot us in the streets and all that. Because police ain't shooting no Chinese people in the streets. Because the Chinese embassy gonna call the US government and be like, yo, next Chinese person gets shot in the streets, that's an act of war. But there's no such thing as black people because there's no black embassy. Where's the black nation? Who were we before they decided to give us these titles? You know what I'm saying? Who were we? What is our political status in this world? Because we have one. Remember, our ancestors were the first ones here. So we have the first peace treaties. We have the first trade with other countries. So everybody in the world know who we are but us. So that's the whole thing. Like portraying these titles don't really give us no respect. You know what I'm saying? So when you call yourself African American, black, Negro, colored, those are social constructs that was put together to hold us and bind us to slavery. You know what I'm saying? But there are peace treaties written by our ancestors that we use today to correct that. And one of the peace treaties is the peace treaty of peace and friendship between Morocco and the United States. And if you read that peace treaty, they refer to who we are in this country. Now, a lot of people don't know the Barbary Wars. The Barbary Wars were the wars when Morocco declared war on the United States because they heard that the United States were enslaving the Americans over in America. So this transatlantic slave trade is all fake. They didn't bring us from Africa. They enslaved the niggas that was already here. All they did was separate the dark skin from the light here. They started slavery here. I'm not saying they didn't enslave our brothers because it was a collective thing. Europe waged war on all dark skinned people. So they waged war on North Africa and they waged war on America, ancient America. Christopher Columbus he didn't travel by mistake. He was an emissary for the Queen of Spain. So learning your history will break down all the lies and folklore that they tell us about how this country was created because those are lies. So traveling back and not to lose the listeners and viewers, traveling back to what I was saying is that nationality and that part of our black people history. Matter of fact, I got to catch myself. No black people. Moorish people's history, that's one part of my movement is to bring awareness to the Moorish the diaspora. You know what I mean, and teaching people about their Moorish heritage and their rights as a living human, walking being. You know what I'm saying, in the United States, and not a corporate construct. Um, Third is family, marriage. Like my second book I put out is Polygamy More Wet. Now, polygamy more wet, people hear the word polygamy and automatically the women are like, man with multiple wives. But polygamy is not based on a man having multiple wives. Polygamy is based on it takes a village to raise a child. You know what I mean? The whole Bible is written the whole Old Testament is written by people who practice polygamy. So I don't know why Christian women have a problem with polygamy, but they love Yahshua. Yahshua could have had 5 wives. Jesus could have had 5 wives if he wanted to, and nobody would be looking down or ashamed at that. You feel what I'm saying? Because that's our culture. Indigenous people's culture, we practice some form of poly because poly was collectivism, not individualism. We are living in an individualistic European construct. The Europeans and the Romans have us living in romance. Romance is an individual practice for individuals, but collectivism is what we praise when we say it takes a village to raise a child. Why does it take a village to raise a child, not two parents? Because it's about collectivism. It's about all of us working together as a village back again. And we need to get back to that. So I'm pushing that. You know what I'm saying? I'm pushing basically, there's been a influx on the internet of young people who want to get into poly. And I felt I needed to write the book because I wanted it to be a guide on truth and respect and history and the history of polygamy, and know that the real part of polygamy comes with responsibility. You know what I'm saying? It comes with family, being a husband, marriage. You know what I'm saying? Not just sleeping with women. You know what I mean? You gotta marry. You gotta be in touch with the family. Get the blessings of the father if he's around. Polygamy encapsulates all of that because our ancestors married their daughters off as virgins, man. They didn't marry their daughters off after they didn't had uh 20, 30 dates in high school and had sex 15 times out of those 30 times. So what we're practicing is a bastard culture, and we need to get back to what our ancestors practiced and stop practicing everybody else's culture. You know what I mean? So that's another part. And hip hop, being a hip hop activist, which I am. I work with Rough Riders in the community. I mediate gang violence. You know what I'm saying? I'm in my community heavy in New York. You know what I mean? I know a lot of people. I move and shake. I save a lot of lives on the street. So I incorporate that in my movement as well, being a hip hop activist and getting in there with the gangs and the young men and sharing everything that I shared on this interview. I'm sharing with them every day.
That's what's up. And seeing you're moving in your purpose. You know what I'm saying? That's the main thing. You as long as you know that you're moving in your purpose, that's all that counts at the end of the day. And that's what's up. You never know how many people you're reaching. And it could be more than what you even know. You know what I mean?
Indeed so. Indeed so.
It-
Allah, the higher power works that way. You
mhm.
know what I mean? Allah is powerful.
Definitely, definitely. Before we close out, bro, are there any other projects or events that you want to share with the audience?
Yeah, definitely. I got If God Could Rap 2 coming out. So look for that. You know what I'm saying? And the cover, this cover's blue, right? The next cover is red. And I did that for two reasons. The cover's not gonna change though. It's
Right.
gonna be the same cover, but I'm gonna put If God Could Rap 2, TOO.
Uh-huh.
Feel me? Instead of the number two, I'm gonna put TOO, and that'll be the second installment of the If God Could Rap series. But the second book will be Red, and I did that for two reasons: for Red and Blue Pill in the Matrix, as well as Bloods and Crips in the United States, American ghettos.
That's what's up. That's what's up. And where can you be found on social media?
Oh, you can find me everywhere. Official Demigod. Official spelt exactly how that word is spelt. But Demigod is spelled Demegod. My writer pseudo is Hafiz Bey, and my real name is Hafiz Demetrius Saiful Bey. So Hafiz Bey is my pseudo writer's name, and If God Could Rap is under that name. So if you go on Amazon or you Google a book, make sure you put Hafiz Bey, If God Could Rap, and Polygamy More Wet. My other book is under Demetrius Saiful Bey. So if you Google that book, that's on Amazon as well. Demetrius Saiful Bey. I got music out, song with Kanye West right now called Get Your Lies Straight. Make sure you go tap in and stream that joint. New album the last album I just dropped is called Goons, Gobblers, and Gods 777. Got 11 songs on there. Tap into that. It's about to be crazy for 2026. Getting to this film thing, and you're gonna see a lot more music, a lot more books and films next.
Nice, nice. That's what's up, man. That's what's up. Well, I appreciate you coming through, man. I appreciate you sharing your knowledge, sharing your gifts. You know what I'm saying? You're
I
doing big
appreciate
things, and I wish you much peace and blessings and
you. As long.
all good things to you, man, as you move forward, man. I appreciate your time. You have a good evening and God bless. Big thank you to my audience, and we'll catch up soon. You all have a good night and God bless. Thank you,
Bless. Bless. Bless.
man.